Hi, so I want to take a few minutes to talk about regret. Now, what is regret? Regret is wishing things were different and thinking if you went back in time, you could make things different. So I was talking with someone about that. However, though, the thing with regret is even if you went back in time, and even if you were able to tell your younger self, this is what we could do differently, could you really have changed things? I don't think so. Because at that time, things were the way they were. Let me give you an example. I've brought this example up a couple of times. Let's say you're female and you think that if you went back in time, you could do something different with your job. But during that time, what was going on was things like Working Girl, that movie, or 9 to 5, or Bill Clinton and Lewinsky. So you think you could have done different, but maybe whistleblowing in a work situation wouldn't have made it different. Maybe keeping your mouth quiet. You see, sometimes when we have things like regrets, thinking we could go back in time and change it, we couldn't change it based on what was going on at that time in history. And being able to accept that is huge. However, at the same time, you can feel like, I wish these things had never happened. I know I can't change them. I know if I went back in time, I couldn't change them. And that is a place of really having understanding and radical acceptance, but also just saying, I would still not do this. I still wouldn't. I know I wouldn't. And I don't know how to change it. That's radical acceptance. The other thing I want to talk about real quick is when people say, oh, you should go for it. You're going to regret it if you don't try. Really? You will be happier if you try and fail than if you don't try at all. Really? For some people, not trying is a safety measure, safety mechanism. And they can't try no matter how much you tell them they should be trying. What about this one? I really want to get my health under wraps. However, I don't have access to certain things that would help me with my health. Well, you can just believe and it'll just come to you. It came to you because of your belief. And, granted, it could come to me. However, that's just a really easy answer. Or, if you really believe, you could be skiing in Switzerland. Or you could go to Switzerland. Possibly, but how many years could it take to get there? Or you might be traveling through your virtual reality headset. You see, you do the best you can with where you're at. And I don't disagree that you shouldn't be dreaming. I don't disagree that manifestation can't happen. However, I do disagree with the fact that you're telling people, go do this or you're going to live in regret. And you don't want to live in regret because you're going to want to go back and wish that you did something different. What if you couldn't at that time frame? What if you couldn't because of the information that is now? I'll give you another example. I like to sing symphonic metal. I live in a town that is a blues town and tribute band town. We right now are having a lot of AI music, a lot of AI videos, which is taking away a lot from musicians. I understand that. I understand it's not fair. I understand people are going to maybe want to listen to that more than maybe listen to me sing. Fine, whatever. You do you, boo. I'm okay. Because I know that there are people out there who would enjoy me singing. So, my point is, I could go back in time and still try and get into a band, still really work hard at a band, but my area is not doing that kind of music. It doesn't matter how far back in time I go, they're never going to do that kind of music here. It would have to get up and move and know where to move to and know who would do that music in that time frame. I'd have to know how to get those people to work with them in that time frame. It'd have to be, so for example, when that music was starting to come out, more so, it was in the 90s. It was starting to be seen in the 90s, maybe late 80s. I would have had to probably go to Europe. And they would have had to start, in Europe, would I have really been able to do it? Would I have been able to leave my home and go do that? I have directional issues. Would I have really been able to do that? So we have to understand also our limitations. So this is where we have to, at the same time, we can have radical acceptance where we go, I wish these things never happened to me. I wish I never, I wish I was never, that wasn't my mother, or that wasn't my father, or those weren't my grandparents or my relatives, or, I wish I hadn't married that person, or I wish, whatever you wish. It's okay to say that. But you're not really in regret because you're not trying to change it. But you're saying, I wish it was different. It really sucks. That's more radical acceptance. And you know what? It is what it is. And I think understanding that that's radical acceptance is huge. And I think understanding the difference between the two is also huge, because when you are dealing with regret, you're always thinking of the past and how you can change the past and how you can change the past, how you can change the past. When you're thinking of, I'm accepting this and I can't do anything about it and it just sucks and I wish it was different, that's more of a radical acceptance where you're like, this is not fun, but this is what happened. I wish it was different. Can't do anything to change it. Even if I went back in the past, I couldn't do anything to change it. But it just does not feel good. And I got to get it out that I wish these things hadn't happened. Okay, now it's time to move on. I need them acknowledged. And that is what I'm talking about. So on that note, I hope that was helpful. And really breaking that down, because I've had conversations around this kind of stuff with people. So on that note, I'll see you next time. Bye for now.